I want to talk today about anxiety. I've had so many clients come to me and talk to me about how they're experiencing anxiety on a regular basis, even when there isn't anything going on, anything wrong. It's just kind of a baseline state that they experience pervasively, and they desperately want to change it, to fix it, which is completely understandable. So I'm going to talk today about what to do if you're experiencing anxiety and you don't know why. And even when everything in life seems to be relatively fine and okay, like let's say you have a day where there's nothing really challenging happening, you still have this underlying state of anxiety. I'm going to talk today and explain from a trauma lens a little bit about what might be happening or why you're experiencing this behind the scenes. So when we're kids and we experience anything that's really overwhelming, when we have life events that we don't know how to manage, that is like more mature than what our emotional development it can manage or handle or is supposed to manage or handle, then we experience anxiety because we're asking our nervous system, we're asking our entire body, honestly, to reconcile something or to process something or experience something that we're not emotionally stable enough yet, sophisticated enough yet to really be able to manage. For example, let's say your parents are getting a divorce and it's kind of a messy divorce. Not that any divorce is not messy, but like it can feel overwhelming as a kid, and maybe your parents are not or were not available at the time to really help you manage and process that experience. You are having to walk through a really overwhelming experience that you didn't have the emotional sophistication or the tools to really know how to take care of and manage. So it can be a really overwhelming experience for you, which can then create anxiety because you can't reconcile safety for yourself. Maybe you're wondering where you're going to live. You're wondering who you're going to live with. You're wondering like all of these basic life needs, there's question marks around them, and you don't have the maturity or capacity as a kid to be able to reconcile that truth. And so there's kind of like this underlying pervasive sense of anxiousness because you can't assess for safety quickly. And this can happen if there's anything going on long term on a regular basis that's overwhelming that you don't know how to manage or reconcile, and that threatens your sense of safety or threatens your sense of attachment or connection to the people around you. Remember, we're mammals. We have to have connection to survive. We have to have connection. We have to be in our group, in our pack. So if we're experiencing anything that threatens that connection, maybe your parents were really harsh and critical about how you performed in school. And so you continually wondered if you were going to be in trouble or if you were going to be stonewalled or ignored by your mom or if you were going to be yelled at or have really aggressive behaviors towards you. If that is a consistent experience that you had, then you don't have that emotional sophistication. You don't have the tools to know how to reconcile that and to know how to create safety for yourself because you're completely dependent on them, right? You have to be with them to survive. And this episode is absolutely not about blaming or parent bashing or anything like that. Of course, in most situations, our parents were doing the best that they could. Their agenda and their goal was to ensure that we were performing at our highest capacity so that we could develop into the best version of ourselves because they knew that that's how they could, produce successful human beings. So we're not like looking at blaming. It's just more about understanding whatever the life experience you have that you don't know how yet to manage, then it's going to create a lack of trust in your environment and a need to be hyper vigilant about creating safety for yourself. So that's when we go into the cycle of overthinking and really worrying and trying to assess like, okay, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? And the reason we needed to develop that skill is so we could somehow try to predict what the future outcomes are going to be so that we could create safety for ourselves. I mean, the bottom line is safety, right? We couldn't trust that the future would play out in a way that was connecting, warm, comforting, and safe for us. So the antidote to anxiety is actually trust and building that self-trust. Because the truth is, now we're adults. Now we do have resources, we do have tools. We can ensure that we're safe. If we are in a home that's unsafe, we can leave. If we don't have food, we know what we need to do in order to get it. Like, we are not dependent on external forces in order to create safety for us. We can figure out how to create that for ourselves if it's threatened in some way. But our nervous system doesn't know that. It has developed over time it's like the wheels were set in motion a long time ago that we needed to think to create safety, but we don't realize that our situation has completely changed, that our emotional capacity has developed and grown up, that we have choices, that we can create safety for ourselves now in ways that we couldn't before. So there's some key ways that I want to offer in this segment just for us to be able to begin to consider how you can create a sense of safety and a sense of self-trust for yourself. Because it's the process of allowing your nervous system to regulate again so that you do feel safe and that you don't need to operate in that consistent state of anxiety. There are a couple of steps that we need to take. Before we get into the steps that we need to take, I want to talk about how common and normal it is. If you've experienced this, you're not weird, that this is very common, that good actually feels uncomfortable for your nervous system. So when there is a lot going on, when life is a little bit chaotic, when there's a lot of stress at work or you're stressed out within your family, then if you grew up in an environment that was a little chaotic, a little stressful, a little unpredictable, then your nervous system knows how to navigate those circumstances. Your nervous system knows how to kind of hold you back a little bit and pace the situation and navigate. Some people, they're actually thrive in those environments. Like, how to really buckle down and work hard and perform well when things are really chaotic around you. It's a skill set you built because you had to build it in order to survive, in order to feel successful, in order to be successful growing up. But it's interesting now when we're adults and we have this really calm environment, then we feel our anxiety and we feel our anxiousness get bigger when the environment is calm. And it's because our nervous system doesn't understand that environment and it can't predict what will happen next. And that's what it's looking for, is prediction, so that it can assess for safety and it can put you in a position and so that you feel safe. What it doesn't understand is that you are safe already. When things are good, when things are calm, when you have, life is you're in a season where life is kind of going your way. It's, there's not a lot of turmoil happening and you can kind of rest and rejuvenate. Then your nervous system doesn't know and understand, I'm safe. I don't need to predict what's going to happen next. And our brain really gets wrapped up in this as well because they work together. And so what we need to do in order to help our unconscious mind and our nervous system feel calm is recalibrate to safety. Recalibrate to knowing and believing that you have internally the resources within you. If you don't have the answer on what to do, then you know who to ask, you know where to go, you have resources available to you to manage any situation that comes your way. So you can go to therapy, you can go to a life coach, you can go to your spiritual community, you can go to your best friends, or you can go to a mentor. There's all kinds of options that we have that we can resource whenever we feel overwhelmed or scared or upset, when life is creating challenge for us. So when we know that, when we can trust ourselves that we're going to be able to manage whatever situation comes our way, because we have evidence to prove that we're adults now, we're not helpless kids who are dependent on the people around us. We can depend on ourselves. And so when we kind of adjust and shift that mindset into, okay, I'm safe with me. So some really practical ways to do that is by, wherever you're feeling the anxiousness in your body, if you're feeling it in your chest, it's common, kind of in the center core of us, in your stomach, if it's in your head, like put your hands there on that part of your body and just do some deep breathing and assess for safety. You may tell yourself, I am safe. You may tell yourself, if I'm ever in a situation where I'm not safe, I know who to go to. I know who to ask. I have resources available to me. I'm safe. And just deeply breathe in and out and recalibrate your nervous system to to calm and to be okay and to feel safe within who you are, within your body right now, building trust within yourself. So it's like we have to reteach what safety is, what safety feels like, and that we are safe within ourselves, that we can trust. And I know that this can be really challenging if you've had like hypercritical parents, or you have a hypercritical boss or hypercritical partner, people who are constantly questioning your decisions and your choices. But this is all something that we can navigate and undo as adults now. We can trust ourselves. You can begin to trust your instincts and your intuition. And if you're challenged with that, then I encourage you to continue to explore, like, when have there been situations or instances in the past where I instinctually made a choice or just knew something was going to happen before it happened, or, knew what I needed to do and I did it? Like, look for the evidence in your past that you followed your instincts, that you followed your intuition, that you followed your gut, that you followed your desire, and it worked out for you. Because what happens when we're wired for anxiety, when we're looking for what's wrong, when we're looking for the next problem, then we don't recognize the moments when we actually do follow when things go well for us. They don't even register. The only things that are registering are what we're looking for. So it's like adjusting and looking for those times. It's very common for people to talk about gratitude and shift to gratitude. I very much believe in that. I think this is something that can very much help. But this is a little bit different than gratitude. It's more looking at, when did I make decisions for me and it worked out? When did I follow my gut? When did I follow what I knew needed to be done and it worked out for me? It was the right thing for me. In some instances, it could be that the other people were wrong, or, it doesn't necessarily have to be I'm right and they're wrong. It's just I followed what I just thought I should do and it worked out for me. So looking for those instances in your past is one way you can really settle into recalibrating yourself, to trusting what you know and what your instincts are and your self-guidance within you. Once you calibrate to this, it's really going to start to calm your nervous system. And then a lot of times when we do this, our brain will start really firing, like, but what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And that's where you take another deep breath and just say, thank you, brain, for trying to keep me safe. You've done a really good job until now. My strategy is changing now. I don't have to be alert in the way that I used to, because I trust myself and I know that whatever's coming, I will be able to manage and handle. Just having that internal dialogue with your brain, a lot of times get excited and, and anxious and start firing off a lot of thoughts. Whenever we're changing and recalibrating our system, our body just doesn't like change because it likes to stick to what it knows, even if it's maladaptive or if it's not really working well anymore. At least it knows it's predictable. And so creating this change can really create a somewhat sense of instability, some chaos within, but hold the line for the shift and the change. Once you get through that kind of wave of a little more frustration, of your brain firing off even more thoughts, then you'll fall back in sync with this new pattern that you're creating of self-love, of self-trust. So to recap, it's normal if you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious consistently, especially if you've had some adverse life experiences in the past where you were in situations that were quite challenging, intolerable. You were bullied at school. There was stuff going on in your home where you didn't feel safe, or you couldn't predict what was going to happen. You were experiencing any situation where you're feeling overwhelmed, where you're feeling like you're unsure of what's going to happen next, then that is going to create anxiety in and of itself, because we have to have safety. We have to have that connection as mammals in order for us to calibrate to trusting and believing that life will unfold and I'm going to be safe. Like, if you're lucky enough to have grown up in a home where that's true, or in an environment where that's true for you, then it's not going to be challenging for you to trust that things will generally work out. I'll figure out what to do when it comes. You don't need to be anxious about it. But if you didn't grow up in that kind of environment and you feel like you need to predict what's happening, That's very understandable. It's a very reasonable response to the way you grew up. It's just that it was what you needed to do at the time. It's just maladaptive now. It's not working for you anymore, and it's time to recalibrate to creating safety and trust within yourself because you're an adult now. You get to make the choices and the decisions, and I know that they're not always simple and they're not always easy, but you get to make them. You're not at the mercy of adults telling you what to do anymore. Like you can create a life for yourself that's really powerful and that is um, exciting and calming for who you are and what you want and where you want to go. I hope you found this helpful. I'm Janice Holland, a licensed therapist, and my goal is to give you as many tools and resources as you need to live the most courageous life that you can live.